Welcome councillors, staff and gallery to the 21st of February 2023 Ordinary Meeting of Council. Attendance, we have no apologies. We're all present. Councillor Priest is out the room at the moment, but I know he's here somewhere. Members, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout the Barossa region and recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture. I pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. We'll move to item 2.1, the minutes of the previous meeting for confirmation. They are the council meeting held on the 22nd of January at 5:30 and the special meeting held on the Wednesday the 1st of February 2023 at 5 p.m. Would someone like to move those? Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Hearn. All those in favour? Carried. Item 3.1.1 is a petition, the residents and users of Research Road. Members, with the leave of the meeting, the gentleman who has been involved in the petition has had indicated to him he may have an opportunity to address council. As you know, that's not our practice and that's not our process. But with the leave of the meeting, if you have any questions, I have granted the gentleman, Mr. Leroy Rosenzweig, the opportunity to answer any questions if you have any point of clarification which you wish to seek further information from the resident. Members, the petition has been circulated and it's a petition containing 20 signatories with regard to the resealing of Research Road, with our normal treatment being a two-coat seal versus asphalt hot mix concrete layer. So is there any questions that any members may have, first of all of the staff, or any questions with the signator? Okay, there is a motion. Someone like to move the motion? Move Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Priest. Either one wish to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour that the council receive and note the note the petition and take no further action. All those in favour? Carried. Oh, those against? No, it's carried unanimously. Councillors, we move to 3.3.1 and that is a notice of motion. Councillor Schilling.
Yes, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest as a family member lives in the vicinity of 5 Johnson Court, and for the purposes of that I will leave the room while it's being discussed.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the notice of motion is the tree removal on 5 Johnson Court, Nuriupta, and that's a notice of motion from Councillor Hearn. Any questions that any member may have before I take the motion from Councillor Hearn? Councillor Hearn, your motion. Do you want to move that motion?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, I do.
A seconder? Seconded Councillor Priest. Councillor Hearn.
Thank you, Mayor. Before the last election, I was approached by Andrew and Lee and at 5 John Court to see if I could talk to them about the tree that they have in the front of their house. They have done this on several occasions, which I saw in the report that our CEO sent out. And at one stage, the curbing and surrounds were replaced because of the root system, and when you see them, I took photos again on the weekend and they're really quite large. The reason that they called me was there was a gas leak, and I'm not sure its origin. The gas company, I'll just say, came and fixed that gas leak, but it was quite prolific. But they had to cut through roots and then repair the damage that they had done, which is quite neat and tidy at this point in time. So on further inspection last Sunday, the roots are quite large and they do certainly protrude considerably above the surface. So they're bigger tree roots than I've actually seen in the past by many trees. But whilst the tree is healthy, there's still a significant risk to the surfaces like water, electricity and gas, and as this tree continues to grow. Council policy over the years is to say no to any request that people in the community bring forward. But they're not allowed to trim their trees or their roots. So I've got an example of a problem such as this in Phillip Street, where Brian and Rita wanted to trim their tree, and the first storm that came through after that, a huge section of the tree came crashing to the ground. They'd complained about the roots altering their concrete, and it was actually lifting the fence, and the suggestion was made that they would dig a trench alongside and put root guard in, which is really okay for the short term, but not for the long term. So they were refused to be able to cut trees down. There was another tree in Acacia Street in Tanunda 12 months ago that I had to go and see a lady about, and all the roots of the trees were coming up throughout their front lawn, and they had a front lawn as large as this chamber. But they too weren't allowed to touch the tree, and the roots on this lady started to alter her fence and curbing as well. So I think these things could have been avoided if the residents were allowed to trim and do things. So that's something that I believe that we should be looking at over the time. So the next two trees, by the way, from Brian and Rita's place, the same thing happened to them, and they were totally removed over a period of time beforehand. So all this could have been prevented with perhaps a bit better dialogue, or we need to look at changing our policy. So finally, at Ninnis Grove in Angaston, I'm not sure if they're sugar gums or whatever, they're the dangerous sort that the leaves just drop off, and you can see a ring where they grafted all of that come out of the tree. The lady at that court, at that house, at number 35, I think it is, couldn't get to work. The limbs were so big, couldn't shift it herself. So she had to wait for her husband to come. They've since gone back, but the residents haven't been spoken to see what the problem is. And it had, one of the limbs was so big at one stage, a car was damaged across the street. So late today, I had a text from Mr. Ben over there about a tree going into Angaston on the left-hand side, which is a metre into the person's driveway. So that's those bluey, I'm not sure what trees they are. They look really nice, but the trunk's only about a foot or so through. So the new owners have approached me to say, look, they want the tree removed. But then I'm looking at it today, I haven't had time to find out the answer tonight, but that was also refused. But I might have a little snide remark here that if we want to put an oval somewhere, or if we want to sell our old depot, which we did in Angaston, 6 or 7 200-year-old gum trees were conveniently cut up, moved, and the roots dispersed. So there is a policy for ovals, which I can see that if we're doing a big project for the community, but there also is a policy where if you're a resident, you virtually might as well waste your time. And I think that's really not on. These people are concerned because the gas leak was going through their house. I don't know whether natural gas can blow up, if somebody lights their barbecue up and suddenly they've got more than sausages and burnt steak. But, you know, it could be a dangerous situation, but the problem that they were told that the leak was going to be fixed, which it was, and they'd sooner do that and cheaper than pulling the tree down. So I would like you to really consider this. There's 2 or 3 examples that I've given, and I've had more over the 11 years that I've been a councillor. So I think we've got to take more notice of the trees.
30 seconds, councillor.
Yes. I don't think it would set a real precedent, because we'd look at every tree on its merit and open the Pandora's box. But I urge you to support this motion for Andrew and Lee at John Court, New Edinburgh.
Councillor Priest.
I think enough's been said. Councillor Hearn said it all.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Oh, we'll have a seconder.
Okay, I'd like to speak against it.
Councillor De Vries.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, Councillor Hearn, I appreciate why you're doing this, and every councillor, if members of the community want us to bring things to the chamber, I think it's right and proper that you do that. That's absolutely fine. I've been quite willing to bring things to the council when I didn't even necessarily agree that that was something that I wanted to see happen, but I think everybody is entitled to have their issue canvassed and heard by the council, and so I applaud you for that. But I can't go along with this. I'm sorry. You've outlined a number of other trees which I think as soon as we approve this would then immediately go on the list. I can think of a dozen people in Tanunda at least, and a few in Neri, who likewise are not particularly happy with trees that they have. Some people love trees, some people don't. That's absolutely fine. There are some people who would remove a tree simply because it's dropping a few leaves in their gutters. But I don't want to see Main Street trees removed. And I actually know of some people living on the main street itself who would actually see trees taken out if they could. Because you can always find a reason if you want to. Looking through this report, you can see that example where, you know, when people have a passion, when they have an emotional dislike of something, they will find reasons to justify why they have that position. And that doesn't mean that the position is not justified. But we have to think of the greater good for the wider community. The Barossa has a particular look. It has a particular ambience. It has a particular feel about it. And if we start taking out trees willy-nilly simply because an individual says, well, I find this particular tree inconvenient, I'm sorry, at that point, this is just going to go on and on and on. And that's not even accounting for the incredible cost that we're talking about as well. So I'm sorry, I won't be supporting the motion, but I do applaud you for bringing it to the chamber.
Any other comments? Yep, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I live in a main street in an outlying town within the council. A few years ago, I made inquiries of council along similar issues with a tree, and as the footpath was renewed in Salyard Road running down the side of my house, the footpath got dug up, the old footpath, and as that happened, I looked and I actually cut back a massive tree root, as thick as my arm, that had blocked the downpipe off my house. So any water was blocked by a council tree. That's now been remedied. I don't do any watering inside my premises now to discourage the tree roots growing. I've seen it, I've still got photos of it at home. To my way of thinking, I can understand where Councillor Hearn's coming from, and I also understand where Councillor De Vries is coming from. But I think we could really assist the public if we had a clearly defined and articulated tree policy. We've got a lot of other policies, but from my quick looking at the situation, there's no policy in relation to trees. So the public could at least understand where we were coming from as a council. I can understand why we don't do things. I've looked at legislation, I've had it pointed out to me, and so I've got a lot of sympathy, but I've been through exactly the same as these people have in my own experience. So I'm twixt and tween on this particular matter, but the way I'm coming from, I would just love to see a policy so the public could see where we're coming from as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I also applaud Councillor Hearn for bringing this to the chamber. I won't be voting for it. I think the tree that I've seen on Street View could be dealt with for a great deal less than $10,000. I don't know where that quote came from. So that alone puts the kibosh on it. However, if you had come with a letter from Origin Energy and proof that this tree was damaging the gas main or the sub main or whatever, I would be more sympathetic. I do believe gum trees are not good street trees, so I would certainly be willing to consider its removal, but not at $10,000 and not without some definite evidence that it is causing a major problem.
Thank you, Mayor. I applaud Councillor Hearn as well for bringing this to the chamber. As Councillor Angus said, it would be terrific to see some hard evidence that the tree has actually directly impacted on and damaged the gas. And I was wondering, is there any way to negotiate or navigate through this without complete removal of that tree, such as cutting the offending root or removing an alleged offending roots that may be heading towards underground pipe works and still leaving the majority of the tree intact, if that's possible. I know they did that with some established trees, but I'm not sure what policy is there, or is there a policy for that, rather than literally removing the whole tree?
So we can do some root pruning, but it obviously requires us to expose the roots to determine if there is still any potentially conflicting with the services. So the gas company went out and took the works, removed the root that was potentially causing an issue. Generally speaking, if the gas company or any other service companies identify a tree that's causing significant risk to their infrastructure, then they'd let us know. And in this case here, we didn't have any feedback from the gas company identifying the tree as a risk to their long-term infrastructure, in which case we would have obviously dealt with that accordingly. But in this case, there was no requirement for us beyond what the gas company did to go and prune any additional roots. Most trees are probably in conflict with services at some point in their life, and it's just something we navigate, and we'll root prune as appropriate. Obviously some roots you can prune back depending on what the impact's going to have on the tree, and so we do look at those options. As I said, in this case there was the gas company obviously didn't deem it as a long-term risk for them, otherwise they would have notified us for further remedy.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you.
I think while we're all complimenting Councillor Hearn for bringing this forward, I personally compliment you, sir, because if Council approves this, I've got 3 large gum trees that I can claim are doing all exactly the same things that you've said. The services are in the ground and in our road reserve at the good grace of the Council. And if any service is impacted in any way, in my opinion, it's the Service Authority that has to rectify the problem, not the Council. And as far as the policy is concerned, I believe that this Council has always looked at the trees, and I would say far back in my day, it was look at a tree and take the best guess. We've got some pretty good staff out there at the moment. I was with one of the gentlemen, Ben, and I forget his last name, yesterday, and he was talking to a resident over the tree, and I was just blown away, and I learnt so much in 5 minutes just listening to him explain why this tree was damaged, what it was doing, what was sustaining its growth, and all those other things. We've got some very clever staff, and I would warn you against making political decisions which can come back to bite us and create a millstone around our neck in some respects, because there are lots of trees out there, and I can tell you that I've got a retaining wall that's moving a little bit. I've got a telecom box next to my gum trees, and I've got leaf drops. So I better stop now, and I think Councillor Thompson.
My query, Ben, and it's probably a bit removed from this actual instance, but in terms of footpaths and damage to those from the tree roots, so does council generally repair those upon a works request or something like that? So if that was the matter, it would be fixed, but based on the fact that there's no damage to the services, then there's no guarantee that this needs to be removed at all. Yep.
Through your worship, yeah, traditionally we'll go out and inspect. There has been some work to the curb previously that we did to repair it, where we lifted it slightly. And often it's not actually the roots far below, it's as it moves and grows, it pushes the soil and the underlying earth up. And so once you pull that up, take away some of the excess dirt that's there now and relay, then it generally doesn't become an issue. We do look at trying to make sure that currently the trees that we select to put in our locations are appropriate for where they're placed. There's some obviously historically like this one that have been planted either by the developer that did it or may have been there traditionally that was just left there by the developer, and so in that case our preference is to not be cutting down a 30-year-old tree unless it's appropriate.
No further comments? Councillor Hearn, you can close the debate.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, there's lots of comments, and I agree with all of the comments that have been done in the time that I've been on council. But I'm surprised at the cost that the CEO put into the report. I believe Councillor Angus was querying that as well. It would certainly be a lot cheaper than that. I think we go on the outside so as to make sure that we cover our things. But there certainly was the gas. The gas company said it was the problem, so, you know, I didn't get the proof, and those people at the house gave them their proof. But I would urge you to reconsider it, because this is just one of a few, but, you know, it would do a wonderful thing for the community knowing that they can actually be heard when they do have a real problem, and I wouldn't want gas around my house either. So just urge you to once again support this motion.
Councillors, the motion is there for the removal of 5 Johnson Court in Newry up to the tree. All those in favour of the motion? Those against? The motion is lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Abby.
We'll move to item 4.1, which is the Mayor's report to Council. Any questions that any members may have?
Move the Mayor's report be received.
Thank you. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Cathy. Thank you for that. All those in favour? Carried. Members, there's 3 items there, matters for information. Is there any questions in regard to those matters? Thank you. We'll move on to 7.1.1, which is the Office of Mayor and CEO, the Executive Leadership Team, Executive Performance Review Framework on page 32. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify that whilst this obviously applies to the directors, the main purpose it is going here is that it reflects what is in my contract and the legislative requirements around the CEO review. I have turned my mind as to whether I have a material conflict of interest. I don't. I have taken advice. I don't, because fundamentally it simply reflects what my contract says and what the law says. But what I will do, for the sake of transparency, if you've got any questions, I'll answer them now, and then I'll leave before you debate it.
Actually, I wanted to ask a question about number 6. You had councillors' reports, then you got matters for information. I actually wanted to ask a question there, but you've jumped it.
No, I did ask if anyone had any questions.
Oh, that was about your mails report, but I didn't hear you say about this one. I didn't hear you. I know about the mayor's report to move, but I didn't hear you speak about any questions about number 6, item 6.
I said that items were up for matters of information and was there any questions, and there was silence.
I thought you were talking about your mayor's report. My apologies.
I did ask for any questions during the mayor's report too, so. Thank you.
So you're not going to allow me to ask a question about it?
Look, I'm not going to get bogged down on that one, no.
Yeah, I noticed that you went to the Nuriyupta Centennial Park Authority and you went to the board meeting. Can I just ask you, did you speak about having the Coulthard Reserve handed over to the council?
I didn't go to any centenary...
No, Councillor Hearn's on that committee.
No, not me.
You've answered my question.
Okay, thanks. All right. Any questions of the CEO on item 7.1.1? And if not, you can vacate the... Any questions? Or I've asked that and he's gone, so move Councillor Angus, thank you, and seconded Councillor Greatwich. All those in favour? Carried.
No, but how could we not endorse his contract?
Page 40, we have the monthly finance report as at the 31st of January 2023, 7.1.2. Any questions any members may have? Mr. Lowe, I think, somewhere floating around. There he is, behind my shoulder. Any questions? Move Councillor Vries and seconded Councillor Hearn. Either one wish to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Next item on page 43 is the budget update, quarter 2, 2022-2023, as at the 31st of December 2022. I understand, Mr. Lowe, you have a few points of clarification that which you wish to pass over to the elected members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, if we look at page 47 in the report, and the top section of that particular page, the uniform presentation of finances, you'll notice that in the column that is headed actuals as at 31st of December, it does not contain any amounts under the capital expenditure for renewal spend or for new and upgrade assets. So the actual spend that we had as at 31st of December for the first item, renewal, was $2.3 million. I won't give you the full figure, but it's $2.3 million. and the new and upgraded assets was $5.2 million. And there was also a few assets sold under that row that says add back proceeds from sale of replaced assets. We had a few vehicles that were sold during that first half of the year. So in the final version of this document, we will add those to that particular page there. It does not impact the forecast for the year. It is just reporting the actual spends for that period. That's one of the items. If I can continue, Mayor.
Yes. Yep.
Page 55 of the same report. At top of page 55 and top of page 56, it still had the 21-22 years on there. That should be 22 and 23 year, not the 21-22 year. The information is correct. It just had the wrong heading on the top there. And then on page 56, nearly towards the end of the capital expenditure on new and upgrade assets, mower number 4, we had the net amount there of 48,500. That is correct. What we've done in the final version of this document is actually split, because we've actually got an addition and a transfer to make up that net figure of 48,500. It doesn't change the total spend. It's just more information that aligns to the actual CapEx report that's on page 63 in this report to show that the net mower spend. So those items are just for clarification. If we could include that as part of the resolution, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to capture those, we've got a slightly alternate recommendation that the budget update report and budget variations noting changes to the mower budget adjustments updates the uniform presentation of finances and approved me to make those minor typographical errors.
So moved. Oh, moved.
Moved Councillor Priest. Seconded Councillor Angus. Either one wish to speak? Yep. Councillor Angus.
To thank Mr Legge for his... I had a few queries about this morning, and as usual, he put me right. There was absolutely nothing wrong, but to a person like me, it didn't all seem quite clear at the time.
Thank you. No other comments? All those in favour? Carried.
Thanks, Mark. See ya.
Thanks, Mark. Mr Legge.
Thank you.
Next item 7.1.4, which is the appointment of a community member to the Newry High School Governing Council on page 66. Page 66. Any questions that anybody may have? Councillor volunteers. I think it does indicate too that a staff member could.
I'll nominate Mr McCarthy in the absence of any rush of volunteers from the floor, from the chamber rather.
Again, more than happy for any one of you to...
Councillor Angus has nominated you. Are you prepared to accept?
Through you, Mr Chair, it's just something I'd be interested in learning about. Yep. I generally would, different ways to contribute to the community, and no, I don't get any benefit or detriment, so I'm definitely not leaving for that particular one.
Thank you. And seconded, Councillor Barrett. Any further comment? All those in favour? That's CEO Martin McCarthy. All carried. Thank you. (7.1.5) is a further request for additional funding for the Gawler River Flood Management Authority business case and associated flood management plan on page 68. There's been further email sent for clarification. Councillor Priest and CEO Martin McCarthy, Councillor Priest, and I met with Ian Baldwin, the chairperson, yesterday, and the CEO's provided further update. And I'll just ask the CEO to just give a further commentary on that, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and obviously the notes will be put in the minutes. But yes, we did, Councillor Priest, yourself, Mayor and myself, met with the Chair of GRFMA as a result of the prior meeting on Thursday the week before. Thursday last week. Basically, the position that other councils have put is not overly supportive of the whole $600,000. What has been discussed is that the capacity to complete the main option in the business case, which is likely to be the Bruce East Dam increase or raising of the Bruce East Dam, there's still a lot of work to be done on that, would be in the order of $200,000. It may generate support if the councils did put that level of funding in from the state for the balance. That is not confirmed, it's not discussed, it's just a possibility. Sorry, I was reading from my notes. The state has put in the original 1.4 million and the councils at the moment approximately 40,000. There could be benefits potentially in the long run with the announcement of Concordia Development as to how that dam may provide a long-term benefit. That's still got a lot of water to go under the bridge. Sorry, that was actually not, pardon the pun, but yes, that obviously piece of Concordia work is huge. One council, Light, has offered a payment based on the capital component. So under the GFMA rules, there is two allocations. One is sharing the administrative costs, 1/6 or 16.6666%. The other is a contribution based on a formula as to the benefits, etc., of capital investment. Another council has paid for to have agreed to the 100,000 subject to everybody else doing it. And Adelaide Hills has also committed to the capital formula, which is approximately 10,000 something for them.
10,380.
Beauty.
And Light was 52,020.
And 20. If the costs that we are actually talking about here are administrative, they're not capital. We're not building something, we're doing a business case. If council was so inclined with the lower contribution, my recommendation to you would continue to be that it be done on the administrative component, as it is an administrative cost, and that would be 33,333. From my perspective, I didn't hear anything significantly different to what the council's previous position was, other than the quantum, and some encouragement that at least with a smaller quantum, what is likely to be the main option could be reached. And I guess the other thing to say with that is a full business case, like them, love them or hate them, you're never going to get funding out of the state and federal governments if you don't have it. So that's the update, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Breeze.
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Which one?
The one at the top there that says that we will not fund the project.
Here you go, I remove it, and that is the recommendation that was circulated with the agenda.
I don't want to give him any money.
Is there a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Seconded, Councillor Hearn. Yes, Councillor De Vries.
The state government owns the water. They make it very plain. Why the hell are they leaving this as our problem? This is cost shifting of the worst kind. We've spoken about this many, many times. We were coerced, kicking and screaming to support this dam in the first place. It is outrageous to me that we're actually paying for the privilege of flooding our own district for the benefit of downriver people because they want to build in floodplains, which is just insane from my point of view. This is just confirming, I mean, we should not be supporting this body. I still think we really shouldn't be in there at all. I've spoken to the CEO about this. The state government, I believe, has a responsibility to deal with this, and I believe that if they were going to go ahead with it, they would do it whether we were involved or not. And I think it's just time that we said, no, enough.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I concur with Councillor De Vries. This saga has been going on for a long time, and it's just another money pit, and it's like a leaky tap situation. I didn't mean a pun there, but yeah, I just wholeheartedly agree with it, and I think we've really got to stand up for our rights.
Yeah, look, I'm urging you to vote against this because I think that the council, as a council, we should show support to the other councils who are going to invest money into this, even if it's a nominal amount of money. At least it shows the other councils that we are on board with them. And to answer Councillor De Vere's question about we shouldn't belong to it, maybe so, but there's no way at this stage that the government is going to allow us to pull out because they already said no to another council. So there's no way that we are going to be able to be allowed to leave, or will they let us leave? But so I urge you to vote against this because I do believe that we should be putting in some form of money, even if it's a nominal amount, to show good faith with the other councils, and because help pay for a business study.
Yes. I try to look for consistency of approach one way or another. Living where I do over in Mount Pleasant, right out in front of my front door, a couple hundred metres away, we've got the headwaters of the River Torrens. River Torrens makes its way down and goes right through Adelaide. Just recently, the state government, through SA Water, increased the height of the dam wall of Kangaroo Creek. And I'll read straight from the SA Water website. It says, the dam has been upgraded to widen the spillway and raise and strengthen the wall. This helps manage major floods. And it goes on and on. Now, not once have we been asked to contribute to that particular exercise. I look at that as a very, very close analogy to what's happening here, but we have been asked to fund this one. I just cannot, in all conscience, put my hand up to fund this particular project. That's as much as I want to say.
Councillor Greatwood.
Thank you. I'd just like to seek a point of clarification through the Mayor to the CEO, if I may, with respect to Councillor Priest's assertion that there is some sort of coercive control that the state government has to restrict us from not engaging in this program moving forward. My understanding from all of the reading and the materials that have been provided have been extensive is that it's entirely at our discretion as to whether we continue to invest in the business case or any capital works moving forward.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Gray, which actually you're both right.
Got to win sometimes.
So if I can take that in two components. So the council has an obligation under the charter with the GRFMA to meet its current obligations, which is, in essence, and has been the view of the prior councils and this council so far, with only one test, basically the maintenance of that Bruce D. Stick Dam. The way the GRFMA charter works is a little bit different to many other charters because the minister has to release you from the governance structure of GRFMA. Mm-hmm. One council some years ago, nearly 5 years ago I think it was, because it's actually the same minister now, was approached by that particular council and he refused to allow them out of the GRFMA governance structure. So in essence, there is, I'm not sure it's coercive, but there is absolutely a affirmative decision that if we wanted to get out, and you've already asked me to go and do an options paper, and it will get done in due course, if your outcome in the next, let's say, 6 months we have this debate, is to seek to remove ourselves from GRFMA, we have to seek the minister's approval, and the minister's approval is final. So, to an extent, yep, you're both right.
If I can ask a follow-up question, Mr Mayor, I think it's an important point of clarification. I understand that there's a ministerial discretion as to whether to allow us to remove ourselves from the governance structure, but there isn't an obligation to continue to contribute to the funds. Is that correct?
There is an obligation through you, Mr Mayor. There is an obligation to meet the reasonable expenditures and the liabilities as with all subsidiaries of council under the Local Government Act. So wherever we are a subsidiary, we are fundamentally the funding body and the risk body and the body that actually wears any future liabilities. So the answer to that question is yes, we are bound by certain costs. In this case, this is over and above the normal.
That's the point
so it's
I wanted
a different conversation.
Thank you.
In terms of capital, there is a limit to capital in terms of the current model. And I'm only new to this, so if Mr Mavronak wants to add, he can. But the current basic way the charter works is anything up to $1 million is shared on the understanding of the ratios in terms of the financial model. I can certainly put all this together in terms of when we get to the options paper. Anything above $1 million in terms of expenditure that is related to the GRFMA has to be negotiated on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you very much. That's the point of clarification that I really wanted to make, is that this is considered sort of an additional expenditure that doesn't fall within what we've previously agreed and that we've undertaken that we'll be involved in.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that is my advice, yes, because it is not directly related to the maintenance of the infrastructure.
Great. I suppose the broader question there, Mr Mayor, through you, would be that it's a risk, it's a discussion around risk, really. Is that if we were to proceed with saying, thank you very much, we don't wish to be engaged with this moving forward with the business case, that there's not a resultant risk that comes back on us in terms of having abrogated a contractual responsibility or something like that. This is purely within the discretion of this chamber.
Through you, without complete expensive legal advice, I don't see otherwise. Hence why they are asking. I mean, the alternative they could ask and is pass a resolution that this is a maintenance or an activity that is caught by the charter. I think that would be a long stretch, but no, I haven't actually got a definitive legal advice to that view. But I've been around long enough. I think I know that. Yeah, it's not my view that would be kosher.
So, Councillor Groats, I took all those as questions. Thank you. Councillor Angus?
Are we on questions or debating?
We're debating.
That's what I thought. Can I just clarify through the Chair to the CEO, your two emails yesterday, one concerning the $52,020 and the other one $33,333. I thought you were favouring the $33,000 option.
Yeah.
So can you just clear that one for me? And I have more to say.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Angus. And as soon as I hit that email, I realised that my mathematics was out, and so must have done it in the morning. So it's simply the $200,000 or the $600,000, depending on how you want to look at it. But it is simply the application of either capital component that councils contribute, which is ours is 8.64% of whatever the bill is, or the administrative component, and we all share that equally in 1/6 or 16.666%. My rationale is if council do want to actually contribute up to that $200,000 because it has some connection to Concordia, that we apply the administrative model, because this is an administrative cost. It is not a capital cost. So I fail to see how that even meets the GRFMA test. So that said, the capital cost of $200,000, we would pay less. So if we go anywhere, I would recommend, and the alternative recommendation I've drafted is for 33333.
Okay, thank you. I totally see where the mover and the seconder are coming from in this instance. However, if we are to opt out of this and they decide the parties left in and the GRFMA decide to raise the wall 12 metres, that has a very substantial effect on land in the Barossa Council. So I'm not entirely happy to opt out. I don't compare it exactly with the Kangaroo Creek, Councillor Barrett, because one is a water supply for a town. I know they're both flood mitigation, but I think there are differences. This water just flows out to sea in hopefully a controlled fashion. So I'm afraid I will probably be voting against this motion for the reasons that if we're out of the tent, we have no control over what happens in future. I would prefer to just pay 333 if that's what it takes to keep us in the game, to have some say over what happens next. So yeah, they're my thoughts. This is a difficult one.
Councillor Priest, you've already spoken. Have you got a question?
Well, yes, I do, because the CEO is saying he's supporting the 33,000, which I'm supporting as well. I'm thank Councillor Angus for backing me up on this, saying that we should be doing the 33,000, but on the other hand, he's saying we should be doing the other, the one that's up on the board now. So which position is that you think council should take?
Through you, Mr Mayor. The position I take is, right now, I think there is a reasonable benefit, but can I get back? There's actually two questions that you both actually just asked. So, if we are in it, we are in it. So, even though the GRFMA, if we don't fund it and they do the work, we still are part of the table having the debate what that looks like. If my recommendation right now is that that at this point in time we don't fund it. I do, however, think we should provision for it. So just to clarify, I do, however, think we should provision in the budget and keep the conversation going to see what the other councils do. The other alternative, whilst actually you're looking at me, is we could condition it, which you remember we talked about. You could condition that we'd go with that, subject to everybody else going with it. I hadn't thought of that till just then.
Yeah, just on the follow-up what the CEO said through the chair, that's exactly what the other councils have done as well when they've put in their... okay, all right. I just wanted to concur what the... Yeah.
I think the CEO sort of answered the question and has couched it in such a way. Any other comments? Councillor De Vries?
Thank you.
We pressed at the same time. Well, then I was going to move for the amended motion No, we're going with this motion. But weren't we going to put in a condition?
I think it's possibly bordering on a new motion. Yeah.
So
It would be a new motion.
yeah, so I would like to move an amendment. A new motion altogether.
No, we have to deal with this motion.
Okay.
And if the chamber defeats this one, well then I'll accept another motion. Yes. Councillor De Vries.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, if they do this business case, they're going to do it whether we pay for it or not. Why should we pay for it? I don't believe it's in our interests. If they want to raise the wall, they're going to come to that conclusion whether we fund it or not. So the question is, if we're going to be led to the gallows, should we actually pay for the bus fare? I have no desire to do that. This is not something which, look, I'll repeat it, we should never have got into this in the first place. We were coerced into it. This is not in our interests. The council that actually wanted to pull out, interestingly, is downriver of the dam and actually gets a benefit, but they don't even want to pay. So that gives you some indication of just how popular this is. I've repeated this over and over. When that water is beneficial and we want to hang on to it. It's not our water, it's their water. When the water is something that they don't want to see come down the river, then suddenly it becomes our water. But the reality is it's neither. It's the state's water, and they keep making this point over and over and over. They are cost shifting. This is what this is all about. The state government should be the ones that fund this, as Councillor Barrett said, and that's how they actually behave in other instances. We should not be funding this. It is not in our interests, and we gain nothing by doing so.
Councillor Evans, Councillor De Vries has closed the debate, so I have to put the motion. All those in favour of the motion that's before you? Those against? The motion is carried.
Very good.
We'll move to 7.2.1, authorisations under the Road Traffic Act 1961 on page 79. There is any questions that anyone has in regard to those delegations? So I move it.
Very fine group of people, and I'll move acting those positions.
Moved Councillor Akingas and seconded Councillor Hearn, and I assume you have any? Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. On page 95, 7.2.2, that's a review of the knowledge management policy on page 95, with a recommendation there as a policy referred to in attachment 1. Any questions? Someone wish to move? Councillor Greatbridge and seconded Councillor Troop. Either one wish to speak? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. On page 105, 7.3.1 is the consideration and adoption of the committee resolutions for the Gallery Management Committee. On page 105. Any questions?
Yeah, through the chair. Just on page of the Barossa, is this the Barossa Hut we're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. On page 125, if you can go to 125, I just think... This is the one before, Councillor. Oh.
New one starts at 117. You want one?
The council resolutions and gallery, you're probably referring to the next one.
Oh, okay, good.
Is there a mover and a seconder for this particular item? Councillor Schilling and seconded Councillor Troop. Either one wish to speak?
Oh, sorry.
Having been the council representative on this committee for the last 4 years, I think that moving in this direction is a good idea for that Section 41 committee to become an advisory group.
Yeah.
Councillor Troop.
And I'd just like to echo that as well. Sitting on there for a few years, a hard-working group of people who have tirelessly, advocating for the arts in the area. So I think this is a great move too.
So a mover and a seconder. Any further comment? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Now, there's a second recommendation, seeing that first one has been passed. The second recommendation is the adoption of the terms of reference as per attachment 2, and it also looks at the appointment of a councillor as an elected member representative on the Barossa Regional Gallery Management Advisory Group. So in order to tidy up 1 and 2, is there anyone that wishes to be on the council representative on this group? Councillor Priest.
I just want to talk about page 125.
Next one, councillors. I'm encouraged by your enthusiasm. Councillor Shelley.
Yes, I took over from Councillor Troop during the last term of council, so I'd be happy to volunteer to continue as the representative.
Thank you. Thank you for putting your name forward, Councillor Schilling. So is there someone who, Councillor Angus has moved the recommendation 2 that's before you, and seconded by Councillor Evans. Either one wish to speak? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. We'll move to the next item, which is on page 117, and it's 7.3.2, and this is the Barossa Women's Artists Residential Project request for support and amendment. Councillor Priest, do you have a question?
On page 125, look, I consider it's got background and then it's got.
Is it a question?
Yes, it is a question. Why would we'd be supporting this? Because I consider this writing here is quite sexist and racist. It's talking about white men, and that white men are all the problems of the artists not being female. And I just thought this language was very sexist and racist. Do we think that we should be endorsing such language?
Probably not seeing that question, but more you can raise that point. Any questions?
I was going to move it.
Yep. CEO?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I just clarify, we've actually already supported it. It's just a tweak as to an understanding exactly how the arrangements work.
Okay, so there is a recommendation there. So it talks about the receipt and management and donation of the funds and the continued endorsement. Yep.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I just give you a quick update? I actually did mean to say that. They've actually already got the money plus. So there is no risk, fundamentally. They've already achieved the 30,000 target for the 3 years, and it's well over that figure already. So there is no financial risk to council.
Moved Councillor Schilling and seconded Councillor Greatwich. Either one wish to speak? Councillor Schilling?
I would briefly, if that's all right, just to offer my really ringing endorsement of this project. And I know that it's come before council previously. I think it's really fantastic that council can play a role in supporting the administration of this program, and I do know that that's the matter in front of us at the moment, is a relatively minor amendment to the administration of it. But I think it's important to note that council has a role to play in supporting and putting some buttressing, some scaffolding around really innovative and forward-thinking and proactive programs like this in our community. So I'm very happy to second the motion.
Any further comments? It's Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mayor. Like Councillor Greatwich, I also fully support and welcome encouragement for the arts in our region. I think it gives a wonderful perspective and broad application for council's jurisdiction here, and can't encourage it enough. Thank you.
Any further comments? All those in favour? Oh, sorry, yes.
You won, so.
Thank you, councillor Schilling.
Just endorsing both councillor Gretwich and councillor Evans' comments that projects like this solidify the need for the Creative Industries Centre, and I think as a community, the more effort the community puts into arts projects and events, will only see the need for that project in the near future, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Schilling, for closing the debate. All those in favour? Against? The motion is carried. 7.4.1, Works and Engineering, proposed road closure for the 2023 Barossa Air Show. Any questions? Question, councillor Priest?
Yeah, on page 134 for the Barossa Air Show, what would I notice there's no cost to the council on the having a tanker there and with a staff member there. There's no cost there. I don't see why we should be paying that cost, but it should be the air show's cost for that water tanker to be there all day to spray the road. On page 124. Oh, sorry, 134. They need a water tanker there all day, but there's no costings for it. I couldn't see any costings. Oh, okay, and why should, sorry, my question is why should we be paying for that?
Through you, Mr Mayor. So yeah, $4,500 is the estimate for the work. Traditionally, council has supported community groups in running community programs.
And yeah, that's something we've done for many years. Doesn't mean you've got to continue to do it, but that's been our support that we've provided in the past. Any further questions? So this is to do with the road closure.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Councillor, moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Greatwich. Either one wish to speak?
Guys and roads all the time for all sorts of events, so I like this one.
No further comment. All those in favour for the road closure? Motion's carried. Proposed road closure for the Barossa Vintage Festival, and this is the Ziggin Market. And I probably haven't got that right either. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just because I've got a name laying it doesn't mean I can speak the language. 136. There's a proposal to close the road, and that's all we're moving. Moved Councillor Hearn and seconded Councillor Greatwich. Either one wish to speak?
Only to note the ringing endorsement of Ziggin Markt as a community event.
And it's a very popular and interesting event, to say the least. All those in favour? Carried. The next is the proposed road closure for the 2023 Barossa Vintage Festival Parade, on page 138. Councillor Priest. Moved Councillor Priest and seconded Councillor Evans. Either one wish to speak?
No, I think it's self-explanatory.
Thank you. All those in favour for the road closure? Carried. Road closure for the Barossa Vintage Festival proposed town day on page 141. Councillor Schilling, you've got to...
Yes, I have to declare a conflict of interest because I sit on the board of the New York Futures Association. However, I am not on the Vintage Festival Town Day Committee, and therefore I will stay in the room, but I will refrain from voting.
Thank you. Seconded Councillor De Vries. Either one wish to speak?
think it's self-explanatory.
All those in favour? Carried. Page 143, Tanunda Recreational Park, additional access and egress point, post-consultation, 143. CEO.
Mr Mayor, I was just going to suggest that now that we've been through 4 road closures, as many members talked to me about, I'm following the directions of prior councils. If the indication, yes, you were. If the indication from this council is they are happy for council staff, senior council staff, to approve these under delegation, we are happy to do so, but the clear instruction in previous councils was to bring them to the council. We would propose, if council are happy with that, that they would come in as information reports only, so that you're at least aware of them, and where we can approve them, because there may be circumstances where the delegations don't extend that far, we will obviously bring a report back. That should probably be some form of direction to the CEO at some point in time, Mr Mayor.
You want a motion to that effect?
I can't move a motion, I'm only a lowly
I think Councillor Breeze.
Happy to move that way, Your Worship. That can you tidy up the language for me, please? Under delegation, and I'm comfortable that if the CEO believes that there is an unusual circumstance which requires it to be brought to the chamber, that he will do so under his own good judgment.
And seeing it's there for under matters of information, you can ask him questions at any time too.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
yep. So move Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Troop.
Council.
Place road conduct, yeah.
See road closures for events under information reports, and that senior officers shall approve requests for road closures under delegation. Set.
Unless other, yeah.
Set. The delegation does not apply, or as a matter of high risk.
Sounds good. The reality is, people, if the CEO believes it's a political time bomb, he'll totally bring it back to the chamber. So.
Okay, we'll have a mover and a seconder. Yes, Councillor Troop seconded. Either one wish to speak to it?
Look, on those rare occasions where we've sort of interfered with this process in the past, it's just got us into a lot of trouble and has benefited nothing. It's created a lot of work and time for the staff, and this is something that really should just be left to the staff to do. Politicising a decision of this nature, I think, is unnecessary. If it is something that is inherently political, the senior management have a good understanding of that, and they would bring it to our attention. And there is no real danger because it is still on the agenda and we can pull it out if we so choose. But it's just sort of ridiculous to keep voting on them one by one.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, CEO, for reminding me of something I was supposed to do.
Top line on my job spec.
7.5.1, the mosquito surveillance and... sorry, I've moved on. Okay, 7.4.5, Tanunda Recreational Park, additional access and egress point, and the post-consultation on page 143. Any questions?
Question? No, it's move it.
Move.
I have a question for the director. Yeah, Ben, I was going to ring you today, but we obviously didn't get the connection happening. So they basically just want to hold off until they actually see the construction is completed, at which time they're probably going to go with it, but they just wanted to keep the option open in case changes occur. That's the gist of it.
Through Mr. Yes, and they want some further investigation in terms of the dust. There's an issue with dust from the car park that has some concerns with, so they just want to kind of see the impacts that the bollards and the finishing up of that area is going to have, and then we've had a further discussion with them. Hopefully their concerns are mitigated and we'll be able to proceed. But at this stage, we just thought we'd rather monitor any risk and any other things we may not have thought about that may arise as a part of the construction works that will be finalised, then we can reevaluate at that point.
Sorry, I foolishly turned off, but
We can pick all that up under phase 3 anyway, yeah.
Any further questions?
Just had a very brief question, and I just want to be very clear that I'm asking this without any prejudice whatsoever, but I just wanted to understand that it was only the one submission that we received that required some further clarification, and I think it's entirely appropriate that we respond in this manner to a single person expressing their concerns, but I just wanted to be clear that that was the extent of it.
Yeah, through your worship. When I met on site with the resident, there were 2 or 3 that kind of poked their head out. She was kind of representative of a few. There was a couple of tenants that didn't necessarily think that as a tenant they had the ability to provide a response. They were offered the opportunity to as a part of the consultation, but they didn't realise they necessarily had that. So it was one representation in terms of the response, but when I went outside, there was a couple of neighbouring residents that had similar concerns.
No further question? Any other questions? Councillor, you had your hand up to move the motion? Yep. Move Councillor Priest. A seconder? Councillor Lane. Councillor Priest?
No, I think enough's been said and it's self-explanatory.
Councillor Lane?
no thanks.
No other comments? All those in favour, as recommended? Carried. 146, mosquitoes. Any questions?
Have we got mosquitoes in the Barossa?
Interesting report, just to see where there was a few around the place, wasn't there? But not too bad. Yeah. Any questions? Recommendation there? Someone like to move? Move Councillor Barrett and seconded Councillor Evans. Either one wish to speak? Councillor Barrett.
It's all self-explanatory.
Your Worship? I'm happy to answer Councillor Hearn's question. Yeah, at that barbecue on Saturday, there were lots.
All those in favour? Carried. Seven 5.1 on page 146. 7.5.2, the hard refuge collection on page 164. Any questions with regard to the hard refuge voucher scheme? Councillor Troop, you have a question?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, I was a bit slow.
You go, I'll second it.
So, just a question to the director. If we did have that discussion about changing the times to a not so inclement time of the year, because the people who pick up the rubbish are actually quite, hindered by the mud and the rain and all that. But there is a problem with that, because I realise we're either going to have to skip a year or double up a year because of the timing. So just in that, what was the discussion or the conclusions about that? Yeah.
Yep. So basically what we are aiming to do is to provide a program twice a year. So looking to sort of have our sort of March, April as the first and September, October as the second one per calendar year.
Perfect. That's going to answer a lot of questions, and also make a lot of people who are picking up the rubbish and everything very, very happy. So thank you. Awesome.
No further questions?
Through the chair to the director, this is a very good program, and I've had a lot of ratepayers ask me about this. Do you envisage in the future expanding this to a full-time one, not just a part-time collection? What more funding?
To the Mayor, I think in terms of just with how demand grows, obviously when we had the first program last year, we had 500 collections and probably only around about 300 eventually redeemed. And we had 1,000 of the vouchers, sorry, the vouchers was about 1,000 and about 300 redeemed. So yeah, we had about 772 of the 1,000 vouchers issued, of which only 369 were actually redeemed. And that's partly because of the time of year, the inclement weather, the availability of facilities, and a whole host of reasons why. As the community message this out, I think that it will grow in demand. Just with that small steps, we actually thought about increasing this program to 1,000 collections. I think we're not quite there yet in terms of demand.
Follow-up question. Do you think that we've actually let the ratepayers know about this program? Best advertising that we can do to let them know about this? Because I don't think a lot of people do know about what we do.
The actual this week, we provide information in the paper, we provide information on our website, social media. I've spoken on radio. So there are various mechanisms that we have tried to promote this each year.
Any further questions? There's a recommendation there. Councillor Priest and seconded Councillor Rees. Either one wish to speak? No. Yep. Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the Valley who have sort of talked about this during the election campaign, and then, of course, some of you might have picked up on social media that I'm drawing a mental blank, but there was talk about rubbish being dumped by the side of the road, and then, you know, the argument was, oh, this is because we don't provide heavy freight pickup, so, heavy rubbish pickup. So I also share, I guess, Councillor Priest's concern that we need to make sure that the word gets out, but I'm aware, Mr Mavronac, that it's in fact being done. We can all help by, you know, literally just, I've been telling people in the pub and literally they'll then get on the phone and do it. So I've actually been the recipient of this, and it's a terrific system. It's vastly superior to this idea of just saying, okay, for the next 2 weeks, the Barossa is going to look like a rubbish tip, and everybody's going to rummage through each other's garbage. So that's, like, in a tourism area is a disaster. The fact that we have the vouchers and also the pickup, I think, is a very good combination, which picks up both the townships and those outside of it. And I agree, I think this will grow over time. It's probably the best system that we've come up with now, and the alternative of just doing a universal one, for those who are wondering, is about $1 million every time you do it. And if, you know, we want to put downward pressure on rates, that's not the way to go. This is a really good option, and it is, from the time it's been implemented, it's proven to be very successful. So as long as we get the word out, I think this will go over very well.
Any other comments? You wish to close the debate?
I've got one on.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Troop.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo all of that as well. I think that we are supporting everything. Well, we're actually fulfilling that need in the community, and I think that if we do have it twice a year, we're probably going to see better uptake in that area. You know, like, I think that people really will do a Christmas clean-up. I think it is true, and it's a bit safer, you know, even for around houses with snakes and whatever. And I have had incredible conversations with the yard man, and he actually picks up my rubbish instead of me having to lug it out into the road. Great for elderly, great for people with young kids. So I think this is a perfect solution. And as a ratepayer, I didn't mind paying a bit more, adding on top of the voucher, because I actually knew he was coming to pick up my junk and actually doing the hard work for me. So I think it's a win-win. So it's great. Appreciate it a lot, personally too.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Members, we now come to our confidential items, there's two items. There's a land opportunity, 8.1.1 and 8.1.2, which is the Angus Park recreation canopy collapse, legal and insurance matters that need to be discussed in confidence. Moved by Councillor Hearn that we go into confidence, and seconded by Councillor Greatwich. All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, we'll move to urgent other business, and we have a leave of... Oh, sorry, there is a second item. I crossed... Go into confidence.
One question on that previous item.
We go into confidence. Second to Councillor Greatwich. All those in favour? Carried. back live, aren't we? Thanks. Urgent other business, leave of absence. Councillor Rees. You're looking for a leave of absence from the 9th of March to the 5th of April 2023. Yep.
Family matters, I'm taking that leave.
Yep. So I need you to declare an interest and...
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. All good. Thank you. Moved Councillor Hearn and seconded Councillor De Vries. All those in favour? Carried. Bring Councillor Priest back. Yeah, Councillor Hearn and Councillor De Vries, yep. Members, that concludes our agenda for the February meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is the 21st of March 2023 at 5:30, and I formally will close this meeting. And before we go any further,